We're back.
We're back! We're filled to burst with spoilers and offensive content. We are Two Fat Guys Talk, episode 104. Two Fat Guys Talk, food, Oculus, Bowsette, and whatever else strikes our fancy.
And also, this isn't at 104, it's season 2, episode 1.
My name is Carlos, and I'm the person who actually numbers things.
Damn it! This is Dave, and once again, I got overruled by him.
Do you really have your heart set on this? Because
no.
I don't want to actually upset you.
Well, you'll know when you upset me, because you just won't be here anymore.
Dave, I want fake internet beef. I don't want real beef. Okay, I want real beef, but like the food. Speaking of food, let's talk about sauce. So we started talking, and I said I wish this was on a podcast. Now we have to get a few things in the clear here. My food tastes are very varied. There are some times that I want something very kind of high class, like a fucking multi-cheese ravioli and a ragu, and I'll talk about making roux for sauces and bechamels and whatnot. Sometimes I feel like a mac chicken from McDonald's. You, on the other hand, your food tastes are best described as extraordinarily picky and ornery. You don't like a lot of things, and the things you do like are weird. Although I have conceded to you that the double stuffed Oreos really are the better ones. You were right about that.
I prefer to say that instead of being picky, I prefer my things back to basics.
You like very basic things, like you're not a fan of sauces in general.
Yep.
If you're gonna have a sandwich, you like to butter your sandwiches. I'm not a fan of butter in sandwiches. But you don't like a lot of sauces and spreads, even.
Nope.
In a sandwich beyond the basics. You want bread, maybe butter, you'd probably be happy without it, and ingredients, and that's it. That's your sandwich.
That's pretty much it. I mean, I'll have a peanut butter sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do peanut butter and jelly.
Right, because for some reason, to you, peanut butter is not a spread, but jelly is.
Well, no, I like jelly sandwiches. I just don't like them together. That's all.
What?
I don't, okay? I don't.
What the fuck is a jelly sandwich?
Strawberry jam?
Yeah, I know what a jelly sandwich is, asshole. I'm just saying, this is a thing people eat?
Yes. Jam sandwiches are normal.
I don't think that's correct.
I'm sure our audience will tell you that I'm being reasonable in this case.
Yeah, the audience seems to think a lot of shit you do is pretty reasonable. So go ahead, folks, send us a voicemail about why a jelly sandwich is a thing and why you old evil Carlos, once again, doesn't know what he's talking about. Old man Carlos doesn't like jelly sandwiches, Piece of shit. But what really got me is we were talking about sauce, and then I was like, okay, so wait a minute, you're not a fan of sauces. I know that you're not a fan of, like, any kind of salsa or sauce in, like, a burrito or a taco. And you're not a fan of having, like, sauce in food, like when you get a donair or a gyro for our American friends, you do not like the sauces that might accompany it. You want it just dry. A dry donair, which I sometimes want too. I get that. But then I talked about if I slow cooked you a beef stew, would you be fine with that? And you said something to the effect of, yeah, it's fine, because that's not really a sauce, it's a gravy. And then we started recording because I needed to know what the fuck the difference was between sauce and gravy.
Okay, so a gravy can be a sauce.
Jesus fucking Christ.
But, like, growing up, gravy for me was always something that you had with, like, roast beef or turkey or chicken, and you put it into a gravy well, built up a mashed potato kind of area of your plate, poured it in there, and dipped your food into.
It was fucking landscaping you're talking about.
Absolutely.
When you said gravy well, I thought you were legitimately talking about some fixture in a yard.
No.
No, you mean like a well in the food for the gravy.
Well, no, I mean, a gravy well is an actual bowl that's meant to hold gravy that you then pour onto your food. That's a gravy well.
It's called a gravy well?
You can call it a gravy well. I'm sure.
You can call anything.
My family's always called it a gravy well.
Okay, fair enough. But I mean, yeah, like.
But yeah, I mean, I would make a little dammed area of my plate behind mashed potatoes, and then I'd pour my gravy into that, and I'd use it for dipping and everything else. But that's how I've always used my gravy. I've never wanted to just pour my gravy on top of my food like other people.
Like a barbarian would, Dave, maybe?
Like a barbarian would, exactly.
I mean, the thing is, gravy's a sauce, though.
And
so you're fine with sauce, just not... It has to specifically be the subset of sauce that is gravy. And you don't like spreads, but butter's fine, even though butter is very much a spread. Also, peanut butter and jelly, fine apart, not together.
Again, you can call me picky. I like the basics of things. Like when I have my steak, I want to taste the steak. I don't want to taste the sweet and sour or barbecue sauce you want to coat and therefore destroy the natural taste of the steak.
You know that sauces are meant to accompany food. They're not meant to...
But we don't use them like that unless you're going to a fancy restaurant. You know, and I have to talk about Canadian restaurants here, but your Tony Roma's or you know, the professional guys, the Keg. You know, I'm saying that with lots of sarcasm because they're considered a top-notch steak place, and they're really not.
I remember I took Poe and Kiki to the Keg once. Our bill ran up to just under $100. I had received a $100 gift certificate as a gift, so just got a little bit of change back after tipping and whatnot. Actually, we didn't get any change back because I tipped. We're not savages. We tip, right? But I remember thinking, man, the steak here is almost as good as this one, and I know the name, I just don't know if I should name drop them. People know we live in Edmonton, I guess.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. As this place called the Coliseum Steakhouse, which is a super good steakhouse that is super good and, wow, good, apt descriptor, Carlos. It's a great steakhouse that's way cheaper than the Keg. And at the Keg, I ate lesser quality food for way more money. That doesn't beat Ruth's Chris, though.
Yeah.
I remember my own bill by myself at Ruth's Chris was $100. Mm-hmm. And I remember the food being not quite as good as this independent steakhouse I was just talking about, right? Like,
so yeah, like with my steaks, you're good if you use like a steak rub, it's okay, but I like to taste the steak. I don't want it weighed down by a sweet sauce, a sour sauce. Just give me my steak cooked. A little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and I'm happy.
What about some kind of pan sauce? Like a wine reduction with shallots and stuff.
I will admit, I probably haven't had one of those in a long time, so I couldn't honestly say.
Well, this talk about sauce made me think, I think it's time we tackled an important topic that I don't think we've actually properly tackled here on Two Fat Guys Talk. Dave, what is a man?
Oh, God.
This little pile of secrets. And
that game's coming out on PS4 here soon.
Yeah, for some reason the Richter and Alucard games are coming out on PS4 and not on the Switch, where they're more prominently featured lately. But alright, whatever. What is a man and what is a sandwich? Because if we're talking about sets and subsets of food that are argued about, oh dear Christ, Sandwich Town. Dave, what is a hot dog?
A hot dog, either done on the barbecue, boiled, steamed, inside a hot dog bun. That's pretty generic.
Would you describe a hot dog as a sandwich? Keep in mind your life is at stake right now.
No.
Why?
I guess by the barest of terms you might be able to define it as a sandwich. It's meat inside a bun, but it's a fucking hot dog. Yeah, that's its classification.
We're not doing these fucking amateur hour sandwich definitions, Dave. An Asian meat bun is meat inside a bun, and I wouldn't call that a sandwich. But a hot dog's a sandwich.
No, it's not.
Do you think a burger is not a sandwich?
No, it's a burger.
But it's a sandwich. It's a subset. It fits the definition.
Just because something fits the definition doesn't mean you should call it. Okay, you know something? I take that back. A burger, I can totally see how you can call it a sandwich because technically, a burger is really no different than cooking up a slab of roast beef, slapping it in a sandwich, and having a beef and onion, a beef dip.
Sure.
Is a sandwich.
Sure, or a burger, according to some people.
But when I'm looking for a burger, I call it a burger. I don't call it a sandwich.
Oh, sure, but I mean...
But technically, it is a sandwich, yes.
Yes, it is a sandwich, but then why isn't a hot dog a sandwich? You slice the bread, you've put something in the bread, and it's filling inside a roll that's been sliced, or 2 slices from a loaf.
And yes, by the technical definition, a hot dog is a sandwich.
So what about...
But I would never call it that. You want a hot dog? Yes, done. You want a burger? Yes, done.
I think you and I need to commit to an experiment. We're not going to be able to do it here. Next time we're at some kind of event where a hot dog is served, after we accept the hot dog, we need to say quite audibly, man, I'm going to enjoy the hell out of this sandwich, and see what the reaction is.
Yes, that would be funny.
And then we'll get back to each other in a future episode.
Sure.
And find out. Because I kind of agree. If you start publicly calling a hot dog a sandwich, people are going to look at you like you're insane. They're going to look at you like you commanded the SS to gas people. I don't know what the SS did if they did any gassing. But this is a morbid fucking joke for the hot dog thing.
But, okay, sauces. Let's get back to this.
Back to sauces.
Because this is what triggered this whole podcast, even though we have multiple topics.
Yes.
Yes, again, gravy is a sauce.
Gravy is a sauce.
It's just how I've always used it as...
It's just a more worthy sauce than other sauces.
And to me, it's always been, something I've liked versus something I haven't. Now, just so people know where kind of my sauce hate comes from, is I'm allergic to something, one of the base element items in mayo and Miracle Whip.
Yeah.
Don't ask me what it is, because I literally cannot tell you. If you make a fresh one, I might just be able to do it, but I also don't like the taste of mayo and Miracle Whip, so it goes hand in hand.
It's got to be some oil.
It's just like I'm allergic to Nestle and Lipton iced tea. But you know what the 2 main things in there are? Fucking tea. I can drink cold, made from scratch tea, no problem.
Are you allergic to high fructose corn syrup, maybe?
No, I'm not. So this is where a lot of sauces are cream-based and not my thing. I can do, spaghetti and meatballs with a nice meat sauce. I'm good there.
I just love how, and there's nothing wrong with this. It's just, all of your examples follow absolutely no rhyme or reason. Like, we can't properly categorize what isn't an acceptable sauce. It's just, it's random. Every example, if you said and so forth in that fashion, like, people will be like, okay, how do we decipher this code?
Another thing I like is I don't do salad dressings.
You know what? I was going to ask about salad dressings. So, no salad dressings whatsoever.
There is...
Oh God, there's an exception.
There's one exception.
You are like the French language. All these rules for conjugating verbs. But make sure you know the 103 exceptions to this.
There is one and one exception only. And that is a light vinaigrette from Olive Garden in their Caesar salad.
Everything you said was wrong.
Wrong, eh?
Caesar salad doesn't have a vinaigrette. It's a Caesar dressing.
Sorry, not the Caesar salad. The Just their tossed salad. And they...
Okay, just the regular salad.
Yeah.
So there was a mistake.
Yes, there was.
Okay, so like, there's one mass-produced vinaigrette that you're fine with. No other salad dressings.
I haven't found that light sort of vinaigrette outside of Olive Garden.
This is a very confounding topic.
I just, as I said, I like my things the way they're supposed to taste.
Here's the thing, I ultimately appreciate that. I appreciate that, you want your beef with salt, pepper, and that's it. Just enough seasoning to taste, and you don't want to taste something else with it. I get that. I think most good sauces and spreads and seasonings are supposed to enhance the flavor and not overbear it. Like, I saw a recipe on YouTube that I like to make for steak sandwiches made from, I think it was a tri-tip roast. And part of what's served in the steak sandwiches is chimichurri, which is like this green leafy spread made with a bunch of greens, basically, that's supposed to accompany meat. And I just thought to myself, if I ever made this for Dave, he'd look at me like I was fucking insane.
Pretty much. Even when it comes to, a cheeseburger, it really depends on the place and what cheese they use, because...
Yeah, I love those ground beef and cheese sandwiches.
God. Wow.
Sorry, let me rephrase. Ground beef and a processed square of dairy byproduct sandwich. AKA American cheese.
And that's just it, is if I'm doing my own cheese that I'm cutting up and melting onto the burger, that's one thing, but a lot of burger places used different versions of processed cheese that just don't work very well.
See, I like the term American cheese, because processed cheese, while 100% accurate, just sounds wrong.
It is.
American cheese makes it sound like it's almost legitimate, because there are times American cheese is useful.
Yes.
I think in a lot of burgers it works. I also think that if you're gonna melt a cheese into scrambled eggs,
yes,
American cheese gives it that creamy kind of consistency that helps with that. You try to shred some cheddar into scrambled eggs, it'll be good, I guess, but the cheddar's not really a melter.
Depends on how you do it, because actually, in my case, I do use shredded cheddar cheese that I shred myself.
Sure.
On my egg.
Sure.
But I also cook it right in with the eggs, so it
kind of incorporates better.
It incorporates in there. Throw in a little bit of maybe some red or green pepper. Make a kind of an omelet out of it.
That sounds pretty good. I'm getting kind of hungry for this little fiesta omelet you want to make up.
So that's how I do things, but it gets me when somebody is trying to do like a burrito or a taco and tries to use what I can only describe as cheese whiz spread or some sort of molten cheese whiz sauce. It's like, no, thank you. That doesn't touch my food.
That has its place in movie theater nachos.
And
literally nowhere else.
That's like the lowest quality.
Yeah, I realize. That shit has to be eaten hot, or you'll taste the chemicals you're consuming.
Give me some shredded cheddar cheese or some shredded fresh cheese on it, and it will melt in with the meat.
Sure. Now, back to sandwiches for a moment. Dave, what is a man?
Oh, God.
And what is it with these open-faced sandwiches men like to eat?
Yeah, you'll have to give me a description of what you're calling open-faced.
Okay. There's a slice of some kind of bread on the bottom.
Yeah.
There's some kind of filler. And then there's no second slice of bread.
Oh, you're talking... Okay.
And then you would eat the whole shebang with a fork and knife.
You're talking what I actually used to call cracker sandwiches.
Dave, I'm going to need you to elaborate on what a cracker sandwich
is.
Is it a sandwich a white person eats?
No, it's the exact sandwich that you're describing. You've got your piece of bread, which would be the cracker. And then,
okay, wait!
Let me finish. Let me finish before you break in.
You're right. I'm sorry. I'm being very terrible.
You know the fancy cracker stuff that you can get at certain weddings and parties where it's just a cracker and like an olive, some cheese, and a spread on it?
Yeah,
kind of thing? You know, hors d'oeuvres?
Sure. Little appetizers.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what you're doing with the piece of bread, slapping the piece of meat on top of it and saying, here you go. I always called it a cracker sandwich.
A cracker sandwich. I like the term. Here's the problem. A cracker, I guess...
Are you going to go with the whole... Usually when you refer to a cracker, you're talking to a white guy?
Well, no, that's the joke I was making, but what I mean is a cracker a bread? And then I remembered there are Ritz sandwiches.
Yep.
So, Dave, are Oreo cookies sandwiches?
No.
I don't think you're right.
Do you know why?
I think they're called sandwich cookies.
No, they're not, because number one, they're sweet. Number two...
Oh my god!
They're a cookie. They're not a cracker.
You heard it here first, folks. Sandwiches can't be sweet.
Well,
Dave.
The intelligent ones.
Have you ever had ketchup in a sandwich?
If we're talking a burger sandwich, yes.
Do you know what the principal ingredients of ketchup are?
Of course I do.
Okay.
Sugar and tomato.
Sugar and tomato. Very sweet condiment, ketchup is.
Yes.
Extraordinarily sweet condiment. Sugary-ass condiment.
Yes, but it doesn't make the entire... It's meant to go with the meat, not...
Wait, what am I even talking about? You were talking about jelly sandwiches earlier.
Yeah.
Literally talking about a sweet spread as the entire filling.
But it has bread, not a cookie.
Oh, Jesus H. Christ. You know most bread has sugar in it.
We're not talking one of the ingredients.
Okay, so let's recap.
Oreos are not a sandwich.
Here's what we've learned. Hot dogs are sandwiches, but don't say it in public. Crackers are bread and therefore can be sandwiches. Oreos are sandwiches, but maybe not. Sandwiches can't be sweet. Sandwiches can't be bread. Hamburgers aren't meat.
I just quickly put our Oreo sandwiches into Google.
And what does it say?
Well, technically, yes. They've been marketed as chocolate sandwich cookie on the packaging since 1912. However, you start getting into other places and people are losing their fucking gourd over this argument.
I was listening to a podcast the other day where it wasn't John Hodgman's podcast, but he was a guest on this other podcast, and he was I think it was a Comedy Bang Bang, an older one, and he was talking about how he doesn't consider a hot dog a sandwich because you don't order a hot dog sandwich, you order a hot dog. And that seemed insane to me, because if something's a subset of something, we don't need to refer to the superset of it. We don't need to call it an integer number, we can just call it an integer.
And yet, I understand where his logic's coming from, because there are certain things, like, you don't ask for a burger sandwich. I want a burger.
You want a burger. A type of sandwich.
It is a type of sandwich. I will say, sure, yes it is. But we don't refer to it as that.
No.
Also, one argument in here is that Oreo sandwiches are referred like that in the States, not in Canada.
We are not going to draw a country line in between. Yeah, you got a pack of Oreos right there. What does it say?
Chocolate sandwich cookies.
Yeah, and where did you buy them? What country did you purchase those Oreos that I'm going to start eating soon?
The US.
Shut the fuck up, the US.
Okay,
Shut the fuck up, the US.
I don't consider them sandwiches. Obviously, people do. They're a cookie.
We should probably start talking about something of substance here soon, to act as the filler for this sandwich that we call a podcast.
Well, let's bring up something that has popped up here recently from Nintendo.
Yeah.
Or at least something that has popped up not from Nintendo, but because of Nintendo.
So,
Toadette.
Toadette and Peachette and especially Bowsette. So,
Nintendo, you done fucked up.
In the new re-release on Switch of New Super Mario Bros. U, Toadette is a playable character, which I'm happy for. We need more playable women in Mario games. And she has a power-up that only she can use, the Super Crown, which I thought was called the Royal Crown, because I talked on Twitter about how I want one. And the Super Crown turns Toadette into Peachette, who is basically a Peach-themed Toadette. Like, Toadette with Peach with pigtails and Toadette-isms kind of the issue, and she gets some Peach powers. So that's the official news. Unofficially, I think it was some Japanese guy drew this webcomic of this scene at the end of Mario Odyssey where Peach rejects Mario and Bowser. Yeah. And they're both sad, and Mario puts his hand on Bowser's shell. And then Bowser looks at Mario with the Super Crown in his hand. And then later we see on the tennis court, Peach is aghast seeing Mario with what appears to be a female Peach Bowser, aka Bowsette. As ProZD points out, the name should be Peachowser, but that's fine. We'll call her Bowsette.
Bowsette it is.
Bowsette has united the world in a way I've never seen trends unite the world before. The world over is being filled with not only Bowsette art of every rating. Some are quite wholesome and have sparked a conversation about gender identity, which I think is awesome. And some is quite lewd, which I, as a giant pervert, also think is awesome. And it seems everyone in the world is, there's some people who are annoyed by it, but I'm seeing way more voices in support of the idea of a crown that can turn a character into some kind of weird version of Peach. People are saying this power-up should be in the next Smash game, and any character should be able to become a Peach-themed character of themselves.
Or even just the whole gender swap thing. Like, okay, I missed the day this happened, okay? I wasn't following Nintendo news, but I'm just browsing stuff at work, just looking up different game information and everything else, and I'm coming across, thankfully, the safe for work stuff. Bowsette starts popping up everywhere. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Because obviously I'm used to seeing artwork where people are playing with the characters and everything else. One of my favorite Mario interpretations was a heavy metal Mario with just bulging muscles and not having to use like the fire flowers to beat things. So I'm like, okay, what the fuck is going on? Then I come across, start hitting the articles. It's like, what is Bowsette? I'm like, Bowsette, is this like his wife that we're all of a sudden seeing? Nope.
No, it's Bowser.
And then I start, when I get home, I start hitting some sites that allow some not safe for work stuff. I'm like, the fuck is going on? All of a sudden, Mario's leaving Peach for Bowsette. And everything else, I'm like, at first I was like, this is fucked.
Oh, man.
And then I'm like, you know something? No, this is awesome. And Nintendo is not going to say a fucking word on this.
Me and a bunch of friends, including Poe and Keeks, we've been sharing a lot of the images that we found in our little WhatsApp group that you refused to jump aboard on. And,
WhatsApp.
And fucking, like, everything from the wholesome to the lewd. Like the Lakitu version of the Super Crown. I've seen Super Crown versions of Sonic and Tails, Ridley, fucking King K. Rool. All hot. And, like really, really fucked up comics. Like, panel 1 is some dude fucking Bowsette. Panel 2, she's all upset because she's pregnant. Takes off the crown. Panel 3, and it's a pregnant Bowser. And panel 4 is him, close-up of his eyes, realizing what's going on.
Like, I think it's important at this point to realize that this is, as you said, this is really bringing groups together in this idea. It's rare for this sort of idea to hit and to have this much impact. Like, people are saying, no, this should be an actual Smash character. This should be now in Mario as, a canon thing. And at first I'm like, well, we really can't tell... No, we can totally tell Nintendo what to do. But they're not going to because they're too safe around this stuff.
Oh,
it wasn't their idea, so they're not going to.
Look, I know Shigeru Miyamoto doesn't like the idea of girls being able to do things. I get it. He's a great game designer who is a little misogynistic. But, trends don't lie, man. Give in. Make the Super Crown at the very least a smash item. And tell Sakurai he has to design a Peach version of every character when they grab it. Not a new moveset. They'll all just have the Peach moveset. But still.
It's just amazing just how fast this hit the net and how big it's become.
Now, you've seen a fair bit of Bowsette art now, right?
Yes.
I'm a big fan of the darker skin, red hair Bowsette, which is the original Bowsette in that comic, I think, and also more true to Bowser, who has red hair. I've also seen girthier and more muscular interpretations, which I think are acceptable
Just
as well.
Fine.
I've seen the Super Crown turn the male characters into Bishi male characters,
Yep.
which, as a bisexual man who has quite a lot of yaoi porn on his computers, is absolutely fine with me. I just think it's this neat kind of expression of not only gender identity, but also for those who see it this way, for those who want this expression, it's an expression of sexuality. It doesn't have to be a sexual thing. It can be just very wholesome. Just this idea that maybe Mario and Bowser have more in common than they think. I really dig the of all the terrible trends on social media and the awfulness that is this libertarian nightmare of 2018 we live in. It's just nice to see this thing bringing people together. Bringing artists and non-artists and people who just want to imagine where the Super Crown could take them. And people being bitter that Dimitri from Darkstalkers was turning dudes into women long before this. But fuck Dimitri. He's an asshole. This is cuter.
I just love the idea of that original comic that, neither one of us is getting Peach, so fuck it. Let's just do this.
Do this, man. I saw a comic where they fucked. It was a loot comic, and they're like, okay, it's your turn now. And it's Bowser fucking the Marioette.
It's so weird, and I hope it doesn't burn out anytime soon. I really hope that the fans keep on Nintendo to not only get a comment on it, but also get this put into stuff.
Even if it doesn't become canon, and let's face it, it's not going to. Even if Bowsette does not become canon, it's just nice to see all this loving fandom. This is the kind of... I always talk about how fandoms are awful. This is the one fandom I think I support. Like, the one.
The problem there is every fandom has its toxic elements.
Oh, absolutely, there are toxic Bowsette elements. I get it.
You just have to focus on the positives of the fandom.
Nope, I focus on the negatives.
Oh, I know you do. I know you do. And you're the problem.
Speaking of problems, you mentioned you want to bring up some issue you have with Oculus that I know nothing about. So here to explain his issue is Dave.
So anybody who has followed T-Fat Guys Talk knows that I'm a big VR fan. Both of the current iterations as well as what I see the future could be. And the problem right now with VR is that we have too many cooks in the kitchen, and we're not getting any forward advancement because there's too many ideas of what the control scheme should be, of what we want our hardware to do, what resolutions we want things to run at, which if you're anything below 4K, you're wrong.
So standards aren't really a thing yet.
Standards aren't a thing, and we have console VR, we have PC VR, we have standalone hardware VR, we have AR rigs. Yeah, we have cell phone VR, which cell phone also does AR as well. We're not getting anywhere. We have too many ideas and no one standing up and saying, okay, well, how about we all work together and actually do this thing? Like, obviously, where we want to get to has been in sci-fi forever. The fucking holodeck is where people want to get to in VR.
Yeah, Bowsette makes me want a holodeck.
I'm sure. I'm sure he does.
Or she. Does Bowsette identify as...
Don't know.
You know what? The safe pronoun to use is they. That's correct.
So now, like, in the PC market, there's been two major retailers so far. There's been the HTC Vive, which is Microsoft. We've also got the Oculus Rift, which is Facebook.
Which one do you have that I've played with here?
The HTC Vive.
That's the one that me and Keeks and Poe were trying that one day. Okay.
And my ultimate consideration was I actually got to play with the HTC Vive. And from what I'd seen of the control scheme and everything else from the Oculus, I wasn't too interested. But both developers have system-specific games where you can run some emulation to try and mimic the other's control scheme to play the games. So you're dividing the customer base in half already. That doesn't move forward anything. And unfortunately, there's been no system sellers. We don't have a Final Fantasy VII, for instance, to get people really sold on it.
I think the biggest one is Resident Evil 7.
Resident Evil 7 was a big one on consoles specifically. VR does work for Resident Evil 7 on PC as well, but consoles are still where people are because of you don't need a powerhouse computer and the investment in the hardware, which is between $700 to $1,000. Mm-hmm. It's an enthusiast market still.
For sure.
So now we have Oculus releasing a standalone, no PC needed piece of hardware, which is of the same power level, according to them, as last-gen consoles. So, specifically, they mentioned PS3 and Xbox 360.
Okay.
Good job downgrading as far as you can go.
I have a question. Does that mean this headset is a standalone headset with the power of last-gen consoles, but you don't need a computer?
Yes.
It probably has its own onboard storage.
Yes. And
you can use it as for all intents and purposes, its own console.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, the problem with this is that means that it's nowhere near as powerful as the current Oculus Rift. It's not even as powerful as, ultimately, the PS4 and the Xbox One needed 0.5 versions of them to bring it up to do VR. So now you're taking your development group, the ones that are doing games for the Oculus Rift specifically, and you're basically downgrading everything they're doing.
Is it better than, say, the Nintendo Virtual Boy?
Your cell phone's better than the Virtual Boy, so yes. I think that goes without saying. Now, some people would say, well, choice is good. In this way, I'm going to say choice is bad. Because we need a set standard to get people into VR and then expand from there into, like, we had Nintendo, then Sega came along, kind of thing. We had, then, Sony got involved. Consoles evolved into the different groups and split after a while when there was a market for it. Right now, VR needs people to work together to get people playing the games as they are now.
What prevents a standard even with different levels of hardware? I mean, there are different strengths of computer that can all run the same games, and different levels of video cards and whatnot that different games can all work under, and they're going according to standards in Windows 10 that let them all talk. What's preventing some kind of unifying factor from existing while there still being options for people who aren't too concerned about the graphical fidelity and just want a VR experience?
Okay, so when it comes to VR, graphical fidelity is it. If you don't have a high graphical fidelity, you don't have VR anymore. So if you're doing anything under 10, well, not even 1080. If you're doing anything below 720, you're already losing the effect of VR. You're not fooling yourself at all. Both the HTC and the Oculus allow you to actually increase at the risk of using more power, obviously, and needing a bit beefier system, to increase the resolution a little bit higher. Now, none of these VR headsets yet can do anywhere near 4K. Nor do they do wraparound, which would be the optimal VR experience kind of thing. But what stops it from helping is the control schemes, ultimately. When you're starting to add rumble or if there was a set idea behind, you had so many buttons, you had so many control axes, it would be like somebody trying to compare a Super NES controller to, let's say, the N64 and trying to work back and forth with that. When you're making a game for the N64 and that control scheme, trying to emulate that over onto, say, a Gravis is going to be a fucking nightmare.
Can I give you a slightly better comparison? Because
sure,
the N64 controller does have buttons in the right places to mimic Super Nintendo layouts.
Except for your Z button and the fact that you have a...
Oh, going the other way around is bad.
Yeah.
But from SNES to N64, you have enough face buttons and shoulder buttons and a D-pad.
True.
I think a better example would be something like the Xbox original controller to a DualShock 3.
Sure. It just, in that control scheme, the moment you do that, you are eliminating the developer from building a version of the game that works for other system. And therefore, again, splitting your market.
An Atari 5200 controller compared to literally any other controller.
One button and the stick.
That's 2600. 5200 is the one that had the big keypad and two buttons and a stick, but never worked.
Fine. Anyway.
I'm sorry.
All I'm saying is, if VR doesn't start working together a little bit, VR may go the way of motion controls. And that would be a bad thing.
So, I get what you're saying. I definitely like having lower graphical options, and but I understand the point here that when it comes to VR, it's more than just a bragging point about higher resolution. It's about literally the experience doesn't work if it gets too downgraded. And I mean, maybe some people like me are okay playing Bubsy 3D in its weird flat textures and solid colors, but I get it. You want that fidelity. I do think there should be different levels for different price points because, again, capitalism, yada yada. But I hear what you're saying, and since you're the VR guy, I defer to your judgment, since I have little interest in VR and I don't own a VR headset.
Now, there is for anybody who follows VR and likes Star Wars, there is the Star Wars experience happening at multiple locations in Canada and in the US, which is it's a cross between VR and AR. They basically as my boss explained it to me, they put you into a tiled room to start with that looks like a shower, and you put on the helmet, you put on a vest and gloves and the battery pack, and all of a sudden, everything overlays onto your current setting. AR. But where he thought it was interesting is, in most VR settings, you're limited to a room. Well, all of a sudden, you're being pushed into another room, and, they're like, okay, well, sit over there in that seat. Of course, my boss is like, what the fuck do you mean sit down? It's an open fucking room. Sits down. He places his hand, he's like, holy crap, there's an actual chair here. They actually had raising and lowering sections, as well as I guess people in the background, we were able to lower and raise parts of the room. Kind of like how you'd expect the holodeck would have to be able to do it. To be able to, do solid framework and everything else. But if you have a chance to do it, It's a little bit expensive for the time in it, mainly because my boss actually asked why it was so short for the $30. It was only about half an hour. And they said that they did it like that because kids were the focus for this one. And the weight of the equipment could dehydrate you and tear you out after half an hour.
Jesus Christ.
Well, on a kid. On an adult, it wouldn't be bad. And
it would only hurt children. I don't see the problem.
And that they were working on a zombie experience as a shooter. That would be a longer playthrough. Now, after hearing this and having him describe it to me, being the VR person I am, now I'll be hitting West Ed during my vacation, and I'm going to experience this because it blew my boss's mind away at what they were actually able to pull off. I see a lot of potential in VR. We just need a couple devs to take the risk. Like, Rocksteady made an amazing, I'm not going to call it a game. I'm going to call it a Batman experience in this case, because the most you did was trigger Batman's grapple to take you between different areas and try and do a whole mystery investigation. It was awesome.
It's I do understand the need to advance this because I do want holodecks. I do want to have freaky sex with Marina from Splatoon 2, and this can only happen in a holodeck.
But we don't need the bad VR. And unfortunately, the two places that VR is excelling at right now is in sword fighting. Oh my god, you can do some amazing sword fighting in some games now. Some dungeon crawling and stuff like that. I have had so much fun with sword and shield, bow and arrow. The devs who put the effort into it are just amazing. Shooters are another game that very heavily works for VR. Especially when you start getting dual wielding stuff, and it can be bloody amazing. The problem still is with movement. Movement is our big thing. You can't have, you can't play Duke Nukem where you're running across a stage kind of thing. You're still limited to moving yourself either with the controller or, point and click stuff. And we're getting there. That's all I can say. We're getting there. Let's move forward. So I'm hoping we need Square to take the risk. Or if Rocksteady moved their Batman game from an experience into an actual full-on VR Batman game, give us Arkham Asylum in VR. That would be amazing. So much potential. We're just not there yet.
I'm never gonna have freaky VR sex with Marina from Splatoon 2.
Probably not.
Last time.
Probably.
Want to have freaky VR sex with the Noctiling girl? Oh yeah. Do freaky VR sex.
What have you been playing recently?
Oh jeez. I've been playing games like What Is and Isn't a Sandwich featuring us.
Oh, so word games. Gotcha.
Yeah, word games. Hearthstone is always my go-to. I'm probably never going to stop playing that because I love it so much. I've been playing Battle for Azeroth on and off.
Anything good?
So here's the thing. Oh god, I didn't want to bring this up during a podcast because there's already enough opinions about Battle for Azeroth out there. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about Battle for Azeroth. There are some problems, as people have no doubt heard.
Sweet!
Now, understand that my perspective on MMOs is that they're only good for very casual play experiences when I feel like it, because they don't let me kind of solo the end game, which is what I want. And I don't give a flying fuck what the second M in MMO stands for. That said, there are some concerns people have had with Battle for Azeroth, some quite legitimate, others quite stupid. So let's quickly dismiss the ones that are stupid and not worth even bringing up. The fact that there are more important female characters than ever before. Fuck people who complain about this.
Yep.
The fact that the story's about the old gods and not, demons. Demons kind of dealt a very severe blow last expansion. Old gods are still around. I'm not a fan of old gods, but they could be made better. Fine, whatever. The whole faction war thing, people don't like that the factions are still at war. My argument to that is, I get that, but that's kind of what Blizzard wants to promote. Faction identity is a thing they want to press, and not everyone hates that, so let's brush that aside as a non-issue. Let's talk about the things in Battle for Azeroth that are a problem. Some of them come over from Legion. Can we talk about the fact that, for some reason, Blizzard stole the idea of world quests from other games, but implemented them completely wrong? In Final Fantasy XIV, in Guild Wars, in every other MMO known to men, known to people. What a weird place for me to find some sexism, eh? When you are leveling and you're walking across a zone, you might occasionally come across a world quest. It's not always called that. In different games have different names for them. In Final Fantasy XIV, they're called Fates, for example.
Yep.
And you are drawn into a side activity unrelated to what you're doing, but that could lead to rewards. Anyone can participate in this activity, and there are often group goals to aim towards that you don't have to group with others for. It's kind of just this seamless, intuitive part of the world. It makes it kind of feel bigger and more alive than it would normally be. Guild
Wars 2, I think, was the first MMO to actually pull that off successfully.
I think Guild Wars 2 is still the best implementation of those as well. Although Final Fantasy XIV Fates are pretty good as well.
Yeah.
In WoW, world quests must be unlocked at max level for the zone. So 110 in Legion, 120 in Battle for Azeroth. And then they're an endgame activity that you do mostly alone. You can group for them, but if, for example, if a world quest is to take down this one big boss that needs 5 to 40 people, you don't just fly in and take it out. You party with others, and it loads you into an instance with them. And if there's a quest that involves killing a bunch of things, your counters only apply to you unless you're grouped with others.
Fuck.
They're not these fun things that the whole world participates in. They're effectively just quests you didn't need a quest giver for, that once you're done, you're just done. And they randomly pop up. Some of them are just repeats of story quests that you played to get the story done when you're working towards Pathfinder so that you can fly in this place.
Lame.
And they were like that in Legion, as you no doubt remember. It's this world quests are this weird, fucking grindy, necessary endgame thing. They even put in an item, the Flightmaster's Whistle, that is specifically only around because world quests exist. It has a 5-minute cooldown. When you use it, you get taken to your closest Flightmaster. And you can upgrade it to work in the new Battle for Azeroth areas. It's an easy upgrade. But I mean, fucking Blizzard they took this one piece of content and turned it into this weird grind for reputations. The reputation grind is a pain. Pathfinder has been around for a couple expansions now. Draenor Pathfinder, Legion Pathfinder, and now Battle for Azeroth Pathfinder. And basically, when you get a Pathfinder achievement, you not only can your current character fly in those areas, but every other character you make can. So basically you do it for alts, for all intents and purposes. When I finally unlocked Legion flying, I was so happy I did not have to walk around Val'sharah, the objectively worst zone ever made in an MMO. God damn, I hate Val'sharah. Okay, it's the zone in Legion, not Suramar, not the city. And not Ashuna, the one where the other Night Elven area. And it's not the High Mountain or Storm Peaks where the dragons are. It's literally the forest where Malfurion gets kidnapped.
Sorry, I gotta look this up because I'm sure I remember the zone you're talking of. Really?
It's a very vertically inclined forest that's hard to navigate on foot.
That was an awesome zone.
No. And much like in Legion, in Battle for Azeroth, there's a reputation tied to every zone. And
you're wrong. That was an awesome zone.
It's hot garbage, worst zone ever in MMO. And and I played FF11. So that's saying something.
Come on.
Val'sharah is the worst. When I flew over Val'sharah, I gave my screen the finger, and I never went back to Val'sharah. I flew away from it, and I have not gone back.
Now keep in mind, I was a druid. So I had to do Val'sharah.
Oh, yeah.
And I liked it.
Yeah, no, you didn't. Nobody likes it. I don't know what fucking Stockholm syndrome you're putting yourself under to make you think you like Val'sharah. It's terrible.
Wow!
So, much like in Legion, every area in Battle for Azeroth has a reputation, and it's a bit of a grind to get those to Revered and to Exalted. Mm-hmm. The grind is it's made worse. By the fact that one of the big expansion features, even though it was released as a sneak peek well before the expansion came out, are allied races, which involve you getting exalted in a certain rep, and then also complete a certain storyline achievement. And allied races are a bit of a grind, especially the two latest ones, the Dark Iron Dwarves and the Mag'har Orcs, which require an exalted rep. That's one of the new ones. And for you to finish the war campaign quest line, it takes a while to get these. The end game has consisted of very grindy things like world quests, getting reputations up, and if you were inclined, doing group content in PvP, and if you're a raider, the raids. And they've been releasing on Looking for Raid, which is what I was waiting for, because that's the only way I raid, is through the easiest raid finder possible, because fuck raiding. It's all very grindy, and it seems very limited compared to the variety in Legion. Some of the expansion key features suck. Namely, island expeditions and warfronts. Island expeditions are role-agnostic things. You queue up, you get paired with two other people, and you have to fight against the other faction's AI, or real players if you so desire, in a race to gather Azerite, which is the new storyline thing. Mm-hmm. And the winner gets a bunch of treasures and a bunch of artifact power for their new artifact necklace, which every player gets. That's the other part that's a grind, but we'll get to that in a moment. All island expeditions are those and some cosmetic things, but you have to kind of do them because it's the best way to get get artifact power for the necklace. Warfronts are these PvE battlegrounds where you take on basically computer-controlled members of the other faction for control of a zone. How it works is that at max level, one faction starts with control of a zone, in this case, Arathi Highlands. The other faction has to contribute resources for their war effort, and it's global across the region, so all of North America is working towards this. Once that happens, you can queue for the Warfront. The Warfront is basically a 20-person instance against this. The Warfront cannot be lost. No matter what happens, you will eventually win it. There's no way to lose a Warfront. And Warfronts are boring as fuck. It's literally a bunch of people just going around zerging enemy units that fall down quite quickly. If you die, no real consequence. And it rewards you the first time with an item level 370 piece of gear, which is really, really high in Battle for Azeroth. And you also get a level 340 piece of gear as well, which is also very high. And you can keep repeating it to repeatedly get level 340 pieces of gear, with some people even saying they haven't been giving duplicates. So it is just a gear factory. That's all it's for. It's boring. It sucks. But it's the easiest way to gear up. And only one faction gets to do it at a time, because after they get to do the scenario for like a week, they gain control of the area, and now it's the other faction's turn. That keeps switching back and forth. And making that even better is that initially that gear factory had no item level requirement. And people complained, and before the Alliance could access it, Blizzard said, actually, you need a minimum item level of 320 to queue up for them. So all Alliance players are mad, because they're like, fucking now we can't go get easy gear, even though getting to 320 is very easy. The real issue is that it's just a boring piece of content. Your Azerite necklace is really only there to activate these new Azerite traits in your head, shoulder, and chest pieces. And these traits are kind of boring. There's a spec-specific one, a universal one for each ring. I'm not going to get into the specifics of how they work, but they're dull. They're not really exciting. And to activate some of them, you need a certain artifact power level, which is you grinding out levels on your necklace, which takes for fucking ever. And sometimes you'll get a new piece of gear that's way better than what you have, but it's missing traits because your necklace needs to be a certain level to activate them. There's a lot wrong with Battle for Azeroth. There's a lot wrong with this expansion. A lot that reeks of laziness. Things like people went into the new raid and got a very powerful weapon that they found hotfix to a much lower item level than even Legion. Turns out that weapon was supposed to be a cosmetic thing only for transmogging, but it was dropping at the proper item level for a good weapon, and Blizzard just took it away from people. And then people got up in arms and complained, and Blizzard was all like, no, just contact the Game Master. If you threw away your own weapon, they'll give them back. Blizzard finally reneged and said, actually, we made a mistake. Contact Game Masters if you want the improper version of that weapon back. We'll do it later. It's just shit like that. Like, it reeks of the... This is the ultimate bullshit thing armchair game devs say. They say, where's the testing? Not realizing how QA works. But it really feels like there was like so little QA for this expansion. Little things like if you're a demon hunter and you glide away from a certain structure, the game might just drop you out of gliding for no reason. You have to reactivate the glide. This is, I haven't heard it happening to non-demon hunters who use other gliding methods like priests or people who have goblin gliders. But, I've seen videos of it happening to demon hunters. No rhyme or reason for it happening. It just is. They had to do a stat squish, which I understand why they had to do it, but a lot of old world content wasn't squished properly. So you have things like Warlords of Draenor enemies having way more hit points than they should, and it being a slog to kill one enemy, one-on-one in the overworld in Warlords of Draenor all of a sudden. It's very clear that there was a lot of rushing to get this out the door. There's so much good. Aesthetically, this is beautiful. This is a beautiful expansion, but behind the scenes mechanically, it all kind of falls apart, and the stuff they're introducing for the next content patch doesn't seem to have too many people happy. There's another raid coming where the Alliance is raiding Zandalar, and you get to play it from two perspectives, which is kind of neat, the Alliance and the Horde. And you can play both perspectives even from one faction through a little mechanic where you get to see how it happened the other way, which is neat. And they're introducing another war front, which they should have done in the beginning to give the other faction time to do their own thing.
Yeah.
But it all still seems very pale, and they're not redoing the Azerite trait system. They said it just comes down to tuning. We'll retune. And they're not making PvP improvements, which they've promised for a while, and there's just so many things about Battle for Azeroth that are wrong. And I get why people are upset about it.
Well, when you're paying per month to play the game.
Yeah, that's the thing, too. They released this fucking mount that in order to get it, you have to prepay 3 months of game time. It's a boat. The boat does not float on water. By the way, you know those water strider mounts? Those are still the only mounts that really walk on water natively.
Really?
And these new areas are filled with water, and Blizzard still refuses to, like, make some other way for your other mounts to water walk natively. Or give you the option for a boat that floats!
So how does the boat work normally?
It's a flying mount. It's like a little airship boat.
Oh, okay.
But you take it to water, and it acts like any other flying mount in water, which is to say it doesn't. Like...
Blizzard.
There's a lot to like and hate about Battle for Azeroth, and it definitely feels like QA is lacking. People are free to speculate as to why, but definitely, Jesus Christ, how long have I been talking about this?
Hey, I had my freaking VR rant.
But that was at least interesting. This wasn't. So,
hey, no, I mean,
I sincerely apologize to all our listeners.
It's interesting to hear somebody who's actually playing the game, because this is the first expansion I didn't actually buy into day one or at all. Now, that's a big thing. Sorry. The second. I did not get into Mists of Pandaria until they gave it to me for free.
Sure. I think it's a very pretty expansion, Battle for Azeroth. And the allied races, when I unlock them, I'm going to have some fun leveling them up to get their heritage stuff. Experience some of the old world scaling, which I've been looking forward to. There's a lot to like here, but there's a lot to hate. A lot of real legitimate reasons to be upset.
And one of the big things I hear that may have caused a number of the issues is the WoW team is kind of splintered right now. A lot of manpower has gone away from World of Warcraft into one of the 3 Diablo projects, as well as the new IPs they're working on.
It's possible.
Really, ultimately, WoW is starting to die off finally.
I'm
now,
sure it'll be fine.
No, what I mean is the development for it is nowhere near what it used to be. Their manpower to make these are less and less. The support around it is less and less. Blizz is starting to move on finally. And, I mean, it's been, 14 years?
Longer than that.
No, it only came out in 2004 or 5.
Yeah.
So, if it came out in 2004, it's 2018, so it would be 14 years.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I don't know what I was thinking.
I mean, it came out when I was working... Well, I'm not going to say the company. But yeah, no, we've come a long way in MMOs since then. Unfortunately, everybody keeps coming back to World of Warcraft because my friends are there. And that is a big thing.
What's funny about me is that's not the reason I play it. I play it because I just kind of like how it feels, really. And that's really about it. Blizzard's got the feel down for a lot of the basic actions. And
speaking of MMOs, let's hold up a candle and put it out for a game that we both got into at one point, WildStar.
Yeah, WildStar's dead!
They are shutting down the servers after taking it free to play about a year and a half, 2 years ago. It is dead, I think, by December.
WildStar had amazing aesthetics, amazing music, and I adored its combat system. I liked its combat system so much, I wish that there were certain non-MMORPGs that used it. It played like, having played a bunch of the Xenoblade stuff on 3DS, I was honestly thinking to myself, this is WildStar-ish a little bit.
Well, I mean, WildStar's battle system was Guild Wars 2.5.
In a way.
And unfortunately, Guild Wars 2 and its expansions haven't taken on those additional amazing aspects.
Everything about WildStar felt good. Everything telegraphed on the ground, and it let you aim and it let you dodge. And Final Fantasy XIV makes very heavy use of telegraphing to give you some real bullet hell harrowing moments in groups, right?
Yeah.
In dungeons. And basic movement in WildStar felt good. Every character could double jump, but it couldn't save you from a fall because it didn't arrest all your downward momentum. Like, everything about WildStar was fun.
But the number one thing about WildStar that I'm sad no other game company has done: best personal space ever.
Elaborate.
Your player home.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
The player home. Now, they tried to monetize it, which was what made it bad. But you could set up your little square plot of land however you want. You want a 50-foot tree? You just bought the tree model and made it 50 foot. You want it on an angle at 2 degrees? You put it at an angle at 2 degrees. My actual player house was the spaceship they gave me for pre-ordering. And it was empty. So what did I do? I turned it into a dual...
Put a bunch of 50-foot trees in it.
I could have done that. I turned it into a 2-floor spaceship with areas for trophies and everything else. That wasn't built into the game. It took me a couple hours, but it was fucking amazing because I needed to make a fucking second floor, so I just simply bought a freaking tile that I turned into a 25-foot square tile. It was fantastic.
Can you make a personal area that's just a little island floating in the void where you could literally fall off and die?
No.
Then can you invite players into your void island and push them off?
No, there were shields that stopped you from that. But it was neat.
Damn it!
It was also neat because you could actually purchase these challenges that you would put down on your space. And every 8 hours, you can go and do this challenge for money and resources and items. It was fucking amazing how they were doing stuff like that, and it was personalized to you. I want this in Final Fantasy 15.
14.
14, yes. I want... abandon how it currently is and do that.
I wish I wanted better for WildStar than what it got.
So did I.
But there was also a lot of, let's be honest, there was a lot of behind-the-scenes fuckery. A lot of the Raid or Die WoW devs were behind WildStar. They wanted to make it a big Raiders game, right? Like...
Well, there's that, as well as the fact that ArenaNet was the one who brought it out, and ArenaNet is the enemy.
Doesn't ArenaNet fucking do Guild Wars 2?
They published it. Yes. But the Guild Wars devs had it put into their contracts that ArenaNet couldn't do any of their usual shenanigans with their game. Oh, yes.
You think of ArenaNet or NCSoft? Because I think ArenaNet is a Guild Wars only thing. I think ArenaNet is the dev of Guild Wars 2 and NCSoft is the publisher, who also published WildStar. And now that I think about it, City of Heroes.
I apologize. You're exactly correct. I was shit on ArenaNet when I shouldn't have been.
That's right. ArenaNet's on the level.
Sorry. NCSoft is the enemy here. Absolutely. Because they are quite happy to bring out a game.
We're on to you, North Koreans.
But if it doesn't...
NC doesn't stand for North Korea, Carlos.
Don't worry. They are a Korean company, though.
What am I saying? I apologize again.
But, I mean, NCSoft has shut down a great deal of different games that were fun. City of Heroes is one of their big mistakes. I mean, even Assault... Oh, wow, what was that?
Auto Assault?
Auto Assault.
It was Auto Assault, right?
Yeah.
The vehicle one?
Yes.
You played that pretty extensively.
Oh, yeah, did I ever. Up right up until it shut down, actually. But these are games that if they were smart, they would have actually gone and made personal server versions that people could buy to run their own copies of it. We're not talking, hundreds of people. I want to run a freaking City of Heroes server that me and 5 of my friends could go play.
Sure. I would love if the WildStar engine was just available.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to see if I could make some single-player games out of that shit.
It was amazing. The exploration was amazing. I loved the jump exploration stuff. It's funny how, with me saying this, because I haven't played the game while it's been free to play at all. But I'll miss WildStar for what it did.
Sure. WoW even stole a big idea from WildStar.
Not sucking?
WoW tokens.
Ugh.
The ability to use in-game currency
Great.
to pay
So
for...
they borrowed the worst aspect.
I think it's a good idea. You have a lot of in-game money, and you can use it to pay your subscription if you want. Other people can use it to legally buy gold.
I don't know. I think that really messed the economy up.
It's all fucking... They made... There is one good change that came out recently. Trying to list all your items one at a time in the auction house costs way, 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 way more money than listing them all together now.
Really?
Yeah, instead of about the same. Now, like listing one of an item and 100 of a group of an item, the gold cost is negligible, but trying to list them one at a time, because listing the lower amount is what's more expensive. You still get it all back if it sells, but now you no longer have, like, listings of... You still have some people who haven't gotten the memo, but for the most part,
you're not
items
getting
are not listed.
100 individual ingots anymore of the current game's building.
Which, as I have a character, one of my main characters is a blacksmith engineer, which means I have to buy my materials. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'm a little thankful for these changes, I gotta tell you.
No, that's great. I'm glad that they're doing stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Any other MMO stuff to talk about?
We were talking about what we've been playing, actually. That's where this came from. I know what I will be playing soon, and what me, Poe, and Keeks are going to have a Let's Play of on our channel soon, and that's Mega Man 11.
Yeah, comes out on the 2nd.
Yep. Oh, I am so excited, Dave.
This game, from what we played of the demo,
mm-hmm.
I've got a lot of faith in the game. This game better not suck. They better not have given us, the best of what they were doing, and everything else is Capcom's usual skullfuckery.
Fuckery, yes. I hope so too. Any more game talk and any more topics we have? We've been talking for longer than I thought this was going to last, to be honest with you.
I didn't. We always say, oh, this will probably only take half an hour, and then we get right into it.
And by the end, we've stabbed each other multiple times.
As far as what I've been playing...
Yeah, what have you been playing?
I've been playing Dragon Quest XI on PS4.
You showed me some of that. It looks neat.
And I've got to say, the game is solid as can be. It's fun. It's graphically impressive. I mean, don't get me wrong. Dragon Quest VIII back on the PS2 moved their graphics leaps and bounds above the standard 2D games that they were doing. But this game is actually... I've actually taken some screenshots on occasion. I'm just like, you come over a ridge, it's like, okay, now that is fucking beautiful. Screenshot. I don't take many screenshots of stuff to save. I mean, I did a bunch back during the original launch of Guild Wars 2 because for an MMO, they had amazing graphics at 4K.
I've actually taken some screenshots of some of the areas in Battle for Azeroth. But...
Oh, and from what I've seen, it's worthy to take screenshots of. So I've been playing that. I've been playing the new Tomb Raider, which my only comment there is reviewers need to get their head out of their asses.
That's usually the case. You playing the new Spider-Man at all?
No. Spider-Man is... I've still got 3 games between playing Spider-Man.
Do you remember that?
I haven't played the new God of War yet either.
Do you remember that web series, Son of a Glitch?
Yes.
Yeah, they're back, and their latest one was Spider-Man.
Ooh.
We should watch that one.
We should.
Done. I saw it yesterday with Keeks. It is quite amusing.
Okay. Other than that, just...
Shoutouts to A+ Start on YouTube.
Yes. Other than that, I did jump finally back into Final Fantasy XIV a little bit.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing that here very soon for reasons we discussed outside of the podcast.
Yeah. But other than that, I mean, I've been trying to limit the amount of games I've been playing because I've been finding that when the new shiny comes along, I jump into it and never come back and finish a good game.
Yeah. It
took me over a year to get into Persona 5. And I'm like 3 hours to finishing it.
I've been ignoring Steam sales. Just ignoring
That's
them.
a good idea. I still keep an eye on them.
Sure.
For very specific games.
I'm very selective about new games because my backlog can be my entertainment. Same thing applies to a lot of movies too and TV shows, although it's a little harder. It's a little easier to clear those items.
It is.
Like it's a little easier to watch a Netflix series or a movie than it is to beat all the Devil May Cry HD games.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I mean, Devil May Cry is another one that before Devil May Cry 5 comes out, I'd love to go back and play those games through, because I play each one extensively, but I never finished one. But it's the same thing that I want to eventually get to Bayonetta 1 and 2.
Yeah.
But only one of those is on the Switch.
No, both of them are.
Both of them are now?
Here's the thing. Bayonetta 2, the hard copy, came with Bayonetta 1. Oh, wait, the Switch. Right, I don't know.
Bayonetta 2, I believe, is on there. I don't believe Bayonetta 1 is.
Maybe I'll just lend you my Wii U at some point.
Again, it's just...
I'll just bring it over. You've lent me enough stuff.
It's just... I'm having to be very, very selective in the games I play now, because I don't have all the time in the world anymore.
Yeah, nobody does. Stupid economy.
But between anime and games and everything else, it's just selective is good. And yeah, Mega Man 11, I'm buying that right when it comes out. I just haven't decided whether I'm buying it for PC, PS4, or Switch.
I'm probably going to get the PS4 version myself because the DualShock 4 is just very nice.
It is.
And I bought that stream box from you that we used for Secret of Mana, so that's the other reason.
Yeah.
But yeah. Folks, you have listened to episode 104 of Two Fat Guys Talk, the podcast where we podcast. We are part of a website called animerave.xyz, home of Carl's Name Anime Rave, best anime reaction show on the internet. Episodes have been sporadic of that, but we have been watching and recording. It's just my life has been hectic, and I'm the editor. And at the moment, I cannot afford an editor that is not me. So please be patient. More stuff coming. Go there, watch us, support us, love us.
Tune in next time.
Bye!